Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Ian Giacchino. I'm going to do another strategy video for you today. We're going to be looking at the Protoss versus Zerg matchup. This strategy is going to be like a two-phase build, or actually it's going to be a two-phase attack that's going to be based on the Forge Fast Expand, as is most Protoss strategies versus Zerg these days. So I'm going to give you two different options for your initial attack, and then the secondary attack is going to be pretty standard. It's going to be a pretty strong attack based around +2 melee, or sorry, not melee, ground weapons attack, blink, and 7 gateways. So let's jump into it. Alright, so here we are in the game. I've showed you the build order. It's going to be posted here at the end of the game and at the description. I'm not going to rattle through it because you guys can read that on your own. I'm just going to go over some general things you need to be paying attention to as you're doing this build order that aren't strictly related to, you know, which buildings to make when at what supply. So we're going to be following Parting here, a very good Protoss flare from Star Tail. This is going to be, you're going to go for a scout after you go for your Pylon, and you're going to scout out your opponent's Zerg base. Now what I like to do is, if they go for a pool that's anything before like a 14 pool, I like to just not Pylon block, because they're going to have Zerglings out fast enough to deal with that. But if they have anything later than a 14 pool, I like to throw down a Pylon, block it off, and just slow down that hatchery. Force them to either kill that Pylon or make their natural, or actually I should say their first expansion over here at their third base, or any other depending map. So that's just some scouting information you can do to decide what you want to do after you scout your opponent. Fortunately for Parting, he did manage to get down there to block it off in time. But anyways, so that's the general idea here. And one thing you can do is, if you do decide to throw down that Pylon, I like to throw down the Pylon and then throw down your Nexus. It's going to slow down your Nexus just a little bit if you do for that, if you go for the Pylon block, but I think it's worth it in the long run. So at this point in the game, right after your Zealot comes out and you've started your starport, what I like to do is send out a Zealot and or a probe. So and the point of this mission is you're going to scout for a third. Does he have a third? Does he not have a third? Because the first timing attack that you're going to go out with is going to be focused on, okay, can I kill his third? If not, there's really no point to push out if he doesn't have a third at that situation. You're going to wait for your second attack to go in, to go and try and kill his third. That's just a little bit later. So we can see that we scouted out a third, so now we know that it is a good idea to attack that third with this earlier timing push. That in this situation is going to be based around +1 Zealots with Void Rays. Now, this is the part where I was going to tell you that we're going to have two different options. So in this game, Parting decides he wants to go with +1 Zealots, which is about 5 or 6 Zealots, and I think 2 or 3 Void Rays, as we'll see. He likes to get those guys out, go for a push, and try and take that third. Now, with this group of units, this is the riskier option, as opposed to the other one I'm going to be talking about in a minute. It's a riskier option, but it has more reward. You've got the Zealots and the Void Rays. They do a tremendous amount of damage, and it can do a lot of damage if everything goes well, if your opponent doesn't get out roaches in time. So it's there to do a lot of damage. But the other situation, the other thing you can try to go for is, instead of going for like 2 or 3 Void Rays as an opening, go with the 1 Void Ray, then add in 4 or 5 Phoenix, and you just leave your Zealots at home, and you just kind of go around the map, pick off units with your Phoenixes, pick off drones, pick off Overlords, pick off Queens. Usually you focus fire and try and go for the Queen kills with those Phoenixes and Void Rays. It's a pretty common strategy. So I prefer to go with the safer play, with just the Phoenixes and the Void Rays, as opposed to this. But there is situations where this works, and you may find you like this better than the Phoenix Void Ray situation. Right about the 9-minute mark, Parting likes to push out with, what is that, 4 or 5 Zealots, 1 Probe, and 2 Void Rays. You're going to want to throw down a proxy Pylon, more than 1 if possible, as close as you can get to your opponent. So you can warp in Zealots and just try to take out this base. But unfortunately for Parting, this doesn't work out so well, because DRG is already making 9 roaches, and 9 roaches is more than enough to deal with these couple of Zealots. As we can see, we have 3 here and then 3 back here. He's kind of forgot about these guys, so not the best engagement here for Parting. But and don't think this is a bad push, because DRG, you know, if not the best Zerg player in the world, or player in the world, amazing Zerg player. So this is for, you know, the 99% of the people who play Starcraft. If you land this timing push against anybody in, you know, low anything below like high masters, this should be a pretty successful attack if you get up there and you get in the right timings and you've got your +1 done. These Zealots will just tear through Zerglings, and that's why we didn't see many Zerglings there to deal with that attack, because this attack with the Void Rays and the Zealots just trashes through Zerglings. But if they have Roaches and Queens, it'll do quite well against that. So next up on the list of units to produce are the Sentries. The Sentries are going to be extremely critical in your next big push, which is going to be focused around Sentries and Stalkers with Blink. We can see we got Blink being researched, Chrono boosted out even, and +2 being researched and Chrono boosted out at the same time. So Parting likes to get about 8 or 9 Sentries, which seems to be a good number. He'll get the Sentries first before you start getting the Stalkers out. That way your Sentries have a chance to build up energy, so that way when they push out their full energy, pretty standard play there. And eventually we're going to get up to 7 gateways, as you can see here, 7 gateways, and 1 robotics facility. So the robotics facility is going to be used to make an observer. Now you're thinking, why do I need to make an observer? Well, for two reasons that are both really good reasons. One, the observer gives you high ground vision that you might not have if you've lost your Void Rays or any type of stuff like that. So you have high ground vision, which will allow you to blink with your Stalkers, go into their main, go into higher expansions, stuff like that, just to be a lot more mobile. So that's one good benefit of having the observer. The other one is, if your opponent does go for Roaches, as we've seen, he's already shown a proclivity to go Roaches. There's a high chance he's going to get Burrow. And of course, if he's burrowing, you're going to need to have observers so you can see those Roaches and still kill them. Because having burrowed Roaches, and if you don't have an observer, that can shut down this attack pretty quick. So that's the idea behind getting that Robo. At the end, it's kind of the last production building you make for this build. So +2 is close to being done. We're going to have a nice little army here for this strong push. So now that we've got our push coming out here, I think it was about 100 supply, starts to push out, start throwing up proxy pylons. We've already got the observer out here to check on all these Roaches that do end up having burrow. And this is your option to kind of get your opponent off guard, to kind of surprise them, because you'll have Blink and you'll have a bunch of Sentries. You can throw down a bunch of force fields, Blink, maybe pick off some Zerglings, and that's going to do a lot of damage to your opponent's army if you can kind of surprise them with it. And also, up until this point, after the first initial attack, you can run around with your Void Rays around the map, just scouting for Overlords, just trying to do as much damage as you can. But you want to keep these Void Rays alive. Do not risk your Void Rays for like killing a Queen in the long run, because whenever the fight happens, like right now as we're going to be seeing, the Void Rays are much stronger in the army. Once they get charged up, they just trash through Roaches. And Roaches will be the biggest ground defense you'll have to deal with if they've managed to go Roaches for the whole time. And if they go Zerglings, you'll have a lot of force fields from your 8 Sentries saved up, and you can kind of just push your way into the 3rd, and then just force field the Zerglings off. So you can see you made a nice little donut full of creamy Zerglings on the inside, and managed to pick off a lot of forces here from DRG. And blinking forward, pick off a couple Queens. So Blink allows you to be mobile. Sentries with force field stop your opponent from being mobile, and of course the observer is going to allow you to kill those burrowed units. So I'm going a little too fast there. So we're on another game here on Metalopolis. Same build here. We've got Parting going with the Forge Fast expand into a quick Stargate. Now this time, like I said, he was going to go with the Void Ray, 1 Void Ray, and then follow up with some Phoenixes. Now this is the build I prefer to do, the opening after the Forge Fast expand that I prefer to do, because for one, it lets you get some guaranteed kills with that Graviton Beam, and it allows you to scout your opponent very, very easily. You can just kind of fly over the place with those Phoenixes, pick off Overlords, and just reduce your opponent's map vision, because Phoenixes are really nice for that. Another thing I want to point out here is just SimCity. Of course, whenever you're going to go for a Forge Fast expand, you want to have your base really tight and really well defended. Now, one thing I want to point out just in this particular map is he has the Cybernetics Core way back here. So you might think, well, if I want to go for a wall off, shouldn't I put like my Cybernetics Core here? Well, in maps that have a wider expansion like this, you don't want to have your Cybernetics Core poking out like this, because if they just come up with 6 or 7 Roaches and you only have a couple Stalkers out, they could easily pick this off, and then you'll be back in the Stone Age for a little bit. You'll only be able to warp in some Zealots and make probes, and that just won't be too good for you. So keep this in mind, that you want to try and keep the Cybernetics Core in the back of your base. Don't try and use it as a wall if at all possible. And also try and keep the Stargate hidden. You don't want your opponent to see you have a Stargate coming, because if you can surprise them, so they don't have as many Queens or they don't have Sport Crawlers down, that's just another benefit for you. So next thing I want to talk about is your options here. So you can either go for like a 2-base all in and just blah, you know, I'm just going to go for it, go try and bust in their main, force field the ramp, whatever, do some damage. That's an option. Another option is this build can kind of easily get you into a third. And since you're already going for the Robo to get the Observer, you can easily transition into, you know, Immortals, Colossus, stuff like that. Or if you already have Twilight Council, you can also throw down some tech for get some High Templar or DTs if you want to go for something like that. So if you want to play a quick game or just want to try and go for a 2-base bust, that is a possibility. But if you want to go for something a little bit safer, you've got Stalkers and you've got Sentries with a lot of Sentries, and you've got Scouting with this Phoenixes. So you're set up for a really nice mid-game play to allow you to take a third relatively safe. So here we've got Parting pushing out. He's got his +2 attack done. He's got his +1 armor also finished. He's got Blink Stalkers. He's got a bunch of Sentries. And he's got his Observer out. So this is a combination. This is the core armor you're looking for. So also one thing I forgot to mention is it lets you take out Creep Tumors, which is also a really nice benefit. So in this situation here, we just saw a bunch of Mutalisks that are, where are they at? A bunch of Mutalisks here from DRG push in and kill a lot of workers, just do a lot of damage. And Parting made the decision to not turn around, not go back into his base and try and defend that. Instead, he just went, okay, I'm going to go for a big counterattack. He's got such a strong army. And look at the supply here, 176 versus 140. Supply says Parting probably shouldn't attack, but army-wise, Parting has a really strong superior army, so if they have to fight straight up, Parting should win this. So he's got his proxy pylon down, which is absolutely necessary. You can even make an warp prism from your robotics facility. That shouldn't be doing too much right now, but there we go, the big blink into the main, throw the force field on the ramp. Stalker's going to be nice and safe. Throw up some force fields. And just try to manage your force fields as good as possible. Trap those roaches in there, trap those Zerglings in there, and just try and force engagements. And if you need to, and if you have a superior army, just try and blink aggressively and deal a lot of damage. So look at just the number of Stalkers here is ridiculous. He has a lot of Muta, but it's just not enough just because he has so many Stalkers with a +2 attack. They can kill units so fast. And Parting now, look at the supply, 131 versus 165. It just doesn't matter. Parting is going to just do a little bit of blink micro here. Actually, it's just going to blink straight on top of everything. Doesn't even matter. And now he sees some roaches going to come. He's going to back up now. He can, like I said, he can use his blink, abuse it, go to the low ground, pick off a couple more units, and just continue to apply pressure with this proxy pylon, which is definitely something you need to keep up. And you can even see he even has another backup one up here. Don't skimp on those proxy pylons. That's like your flow. That's a supply line for your army. It's something you want to keep alive throughout this game. And when you need to reinforce, just reinforce more and more and more Stalkers, because Stalkers are so good with blink and upgrades. They trade pretty cost effectively against roaches and Zerglings, if you can control them pretty well and try to abuse these cliffs like I was talking about earlier. So we have Parting using that Observer to get that high ground vision, even though all his air units are dead. The Mutalisks did kill them, so he's back in the main. He's going to get a lot of free kills here. Look at that, a lot of roaches dying, a lot of Zerglings dying. He's going to force a choke point here at the ramp. Doing a little bit of blink micro there, just blinking a couple guys, maybe big groups of them, kind of just drag like this, get the front line, just grab a couple blink back. You don't have to do amazing blink micro where you do like one blink, one blink, one blink. You don't have to do anything crazy like that. Just grab like 4 or 5 blink, And look at this nice concave here from Parting. Just so many Stalkers, just pure Stalkers, just wins that fight straight up. And the supply says everything. Parting now with the lead. And eventually we're going to see DRG give it up here. So, let me just let this run out. He's going to GG here pretty soon. There it is, GG. So, another thing I want to talk about is just like the saturation you should go with if you're going to go with like just a straight up 2-base attack and you're not even planning to go for a 3rd base. What I like to do is I like to get about 16 workers on minerals here at each base, and then of course 3 on each gas geyser. So if you just double click like this, you can get a good idea of how many probes you have at your base. And usually what number you want to see is 8 here, and then 4 here, and then 2 that are hidden that are inside this assimilator. Just a quick way to check the number of workers you should be having here. And you can see the couple low here just because you lost a couple due to that Mutalisk harass, but that's a quick way to keep an eye on that. So that's the build here. Let's just cover it real quick. Once again, the 2-base timing attack with the optional early game pressure. Remember to scout out that 3rd base. If after your first push with your first initial scout, you send your probe out and you come back, and then you try to go and scout again for the 3rd base and you don't see it, that's when you need to worry. You need to think, all right, Does he have the third? And I don't know. Because if you don't see that third base, doing that first aggressive push with the Zealots and Void Rays, or just Void Rays, actually with the Void Rays and Phoenixes, it doesn't really matter because you can still apply pressure, which is another reason why I like that build. But if you're going to try and go for that Zealot Void Ray pressure that we saw in that first replay, you definitely need to make sure he has a third, because if he has only 2 bases, that pressure will do absolutely nothing. So just keep an eye out for that third base and send some probes to scout out that, if at all possible. So yeah, then you're just going to get 7 gateways, 2 bases, blink, which is going to be definitely useful to allow you to just have some nice control, and then get that +2 attack and just start doing some damage and start applying a lot of pressure, and get those proxy pylons up and that observer. So hope you guys enjoyed this strategy tutorial. If you have any questions on it, leave some questions in the comments or send me messages or PMs or Twitter or whatever. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to continue to do some more strategy videos. Just kind of busy this week with taxes and whatnot. So thanks for watching. See you later.